to the Geeks with Wives podcast, episode 142. I am your host, Jeff Gordon, and tonight I am joined by a swell group of guys. First off, we are joined by the Director of Community Outreach for Geeks with Wives, Kenny Newville. How are you doing, Kenny? Mr. Newville, are you there? Oh, well, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but I was very interested with something that happened to Kenny this week, and that he encountered a snake. Are you okay?
I survived. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
I was scared because I saw the picture of the snake, and then I didn't hear anything from you. So I was afraid that it got you, but you're okay.
No, actually, it's funny. I had just talked with Joe on the phone a couple days ago, and I was telling him my basement just is a den for spiders in the middle of Missouri, and I hate spiders. Like, spiders are my snakes for Indiana Jones type thing, right? But I said I could deal with snakes. I could deal with snakes. That wouldn't be a big deal. But spiders, I hate spiders. And then I went out on the porch, and there's a snake, so I had to deal with that.
Oh, so how did you deal with it? I have to know. Maybe I missed that, but I didn't see.
I just scooped it up and threw it into the stream behind my house. No big deal.
Nice. We used to always take snakes and throw them over the fence into the neighbor's yard. So that's how we used to do it. It's a
neighborly thing to do.
It's a gift that keeps on giving. Okay, so, and we're also joined by our associate editor of Geeks with Wives, Andrew Barton.
Howdy, guys. Going well. I am tired and sweaty. Been running all across camps, but you know what? The kiddos are having fun.
Tired and sweaty, man.
Yeah.
Turning up the heat.
It's a good thing that we record this podcast remotely rather than all together at once. I'm saving you guys from that particular aroma.
We appreciate you doing that, Andrew. We do.
You're welcome.
I saw. Are you a San Antonio Spurs fan?
Well, yes, I am. I'm actually more of a Mavs fan than anything, but I recognize that that makes me a fairly tortured individual, so I also pull for the Spurs.
Okay, all right. Well, if anybody doesn't know, they won the NBA championship earlier this week, so if you are a Spurs fan and you're listening to the podcast, we definitely appreciate you, and congratulations on your team winning the NBA Finals. And
yes. The better team won.
That's true. The better team won. And we do not want to forget our favorite, I came up with this term, our favorite techspert.
Oh my gosh.
From CNET, Ian Sherr. How you doing, Ian?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah. And, I mean, you can use that. I'm not going to, require
techspert?
any. Oh, yeah,
I'm going to put it on my LinkedIn profile right now. Everyone's favorite techspert.
I mean, it fits perfectly on a business card. There you go. And have you recovered from E3 yet?
No, I'm still. You can tell that the little bit of lack of shaving and probably the circles under my eyes. I'm definitely still getting there. But for the most part, I'm doing all right. I'm better off than some. There are some people who have gotten sick and have gotten the annual cold and cough. So I survived that one so far. But otherwise, I'm still catching up on a little bit of sleep.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine, because you were pretty close to where it actually was, like as far as where you live. So.
Compared to you, yes, I am, but I'm not that close. Otherwise, 400 miles is still 400 miles, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, I saw people that like they write out of the UK or in Europe, and I can't even imagine how tough it is to go through such a drastic time change, and then have to cover all of that information, and then go back to work on Monday. I can't even imagine doing that.
No,
So.
I didn't have time zones to deal with. You're absolutely correct.
Well, we're glad that you were able to join us tonight. We really appreciate it every time that you're on the podcast. And we'll go ahead and I have to ask, you've been busy, but have you been playing any games lately? And if so, what have you been playing?
So I'm going to just talk about the games I played during E3 because, heck, that's what anyone cares about.
Yeah.
I will say that I played Watch Dogs for the first hour or so and had quite a bit of fun. It's different from what I expected. I don't know what I was expecting, but it's different. I've found it's a little more like it's not as intuitive for me to play as I thought it might be. But we'll see. I'm still enjoying it. The storyline seems fun. It's really cool to hack things. So I'm looking forward to playing more. But I would have to say the game that I had probably the most intriguing experience playing during E3 was Lucky's Tale, which was an Oculus game. And I have to say the reason is because it was a game I didn't expect to ever play on VR. I don't know if you've looked at it, but look it up on YouTube. I'm sure there's videos out there. It's basically a platformer that's not that different from Super Mario 64, but the thing is that it's in VR. And I don't know how many of you have experienced VR, but usually the big complaint everyone has is that you get sick pretty quickly. You can get nauseous. And the reason for that medically is that my eyes and my brain see me moving, but my body says I'm not. And so that cognitive dissonance causes you to feel ill, as opposed to when you're on a ship and the opposite is happening. Your body's moving around, but your brain doesn't think you are. So the interesting thing is that Lucky's Tale, I always have thought, playing all these VR games now that I have, and I played on Morpheus, I played on Oculus, is that I've come to believe that you can't play first-person shooters, for example, because you're moving forward, and you're moving forward, and the rest of your body is not, and so you're like, what's going on? And you get very, very sick very quick. But in like a car situation, right? We've all been in cars. We're used to being in a box that's around us that's not moving, and then the rest of the world is whizzing by outside the box. So that's a paradigm our brains understand and are used to. So I thought, anything with a car, Eve, what was the Eve on the Eve game? Valkyrie, right? That game, which is a shooting game, that's you're in a cockpit of a space fighter. Very easy to play, very natural. But I never thought I could play a first-person shooter or anything that had a camera. The view was outside the body and following. So what happened with Lucky's Tale that was interesting, because it's a Mario 64-ish type title, is that you're actually moving, the camera moves extremely slowly, like very, very slowly. And the character is moving along, and the world is so kind of, I don't know how to describe it, it's almost like you're looking down at a Lego playset. And it's really interesting because it works. It works really well. I didn't get sick at all. They did change the perspective on you a number of times where, and by that I mean that you would, the character would jump onto platforms and you would get closer and closer and you were almost at the platform, which was kind of cool. But the camera never swung around. In Mario, if Mario runs underneath where you are, the camera, right, what happens is the camera zooms around and follows him the other way. If you did that in VR, I would be throwing up on the side of the table. But that's not what happens here. Instead, the camera never loses pointing north, essentially, pointing in one direction. And I talked to the developer, and he said that was a specific choice they made, was to make sure that the camera was always pointing in one direction at any given time, and it would never swing around, and it would move relatively slowly. And there were some things that they did to make that work, but it worked really well. And they said, well, what if you want to change the camera perspective? They said, if we're going to do that, we're going to have clear points where it happens. So let's say I go into a dungeon, right? If I walk into the dungeon, then they could change the camera perspective and not make me sick because my brain now acclimates to the new camera perspective. It's still staying in the same direction all the time. We're great. So that was really cool. I had a lot of fun playing with it.
Awesome.
Go
ahead.
I haven't experienced VR yet, and one of the things that I'm curious to know is how crisp is the image when you're playing, for example, this Tales?
Yeah, so it really depends on the developer. So, for example, Lucky's Tale is a very crisp image. I mean, a lot of these things are still beta games, right? So you're not going to get everything. I was playing Alien Isolation, and I was walking around. It's very, I mean, they did a lot of detail. It's really beautifully constructed. Although it's a first-person shooter, I did get a little disoriented. So I actually found a spot in one of the parts of the ship that you're in, where the alien's coming at you, where they had a spot where it said "Poster A goes here." So it was clearly like they hadn't finished all the art yet, right? But it was very, I mean, it's extremely crisp. It looks very well done. I mean, you can create PS4 and higher level quality graphics, and it works. And because of the new generation of the Oculus, I don't know if you've been following, but the Developer Kit 2 has a new technology in it where it used to be if you moved quickly from side to side, the image would kind of blur a little bit. They fixed a lot of that trouble. And so now you can move side to side, and it stays pretty crisp. And it's getting to a point now where it's like a big television right at your face, and it works pretty well.
I have to say, I'm terrified of Alien Isolation.
It's a terrifying game. They purposely make it that way. But I mean, I died quicker than I could be terrified. So there's that. I was spending. So I start the game. You're in this room. You're given 20 seconds, and you look down to your left, and you see that you're wearing or that you're holding on to a sensor, like a radar thing, right? That tells you if the alien's coming at you. And then you look around. You kind of see your body a little bit. And then 20 seconds are up, a door opens, and there's a dead person in front of you, and you're just walking toward him. And you're in the ship, and you're trying to walk around and not get attacked by the alien. So I made it about, I would say, 15 to 20 steps before my radar starts blipping. I'm like, okay, I'm dead. And it tells you which side it's coming from, but there was no way I could react in time. And so the alien comes out of the thing, comes at me, and goes, woo! And it's just, it was...
I hope that's the sound effect that they made.
Yeah, no, that's a patented sound effect there. It was crazy, and for that moment, I mean, once I realized I was dead, it was over. And then the alien actually hugs you like right at it, and you like die. So I was more frustrated that I couldn't get any further, and then I looked at the guy. I'm like, did I just suck really bad? He's like, no, it's built that way. So, but it was, it could be a terrifying game. It depends on, the thing is, how immersive is it, and what are the quality of the sounds, what are the quality of the visuals, and again, the important part, I was spending a lot of time looking at stuff, which was cool, but B, I was trying to fight the disorientation in my head. So the immersion was a little cut off by the fact that I'm disoriented, and that's a problem. One of the biggest problems I think in VR in general is telling you where to look and how to tell you where to look. So Lucky's Tale pretty much fixed that. The camera's always looking north. You know where the center of the image is. You can look around from there. You can look anywhere you want, but you know where the center is all the time and where most of the information will be. And by information, I mean events happening in the picture. I played with and the reason I bring this up, I played with a Hollywood-level camera company that's building 3D, 360-degree cameras for VR, for Oculus and others. And they showed me a video demo of an attack on a starship. And there are 4 corridors coming at you, and you're in the middle. And there's all this stuff going on. And so suddenly there's noise coming from behind me. I look behind me, and there's like someone who's been stabbed, but I missed it. And then there's someone yelling from the left, and I turn, and I just catch as the action starts happening. And what I realized was, here's a problem, right? VR in general, I always thought would be stationary or in a box, right? Just like I said before, a car, a spaceship. And the hard part is when you're not in a box, you don't know where to look when the action's happening. If you think about it, X-Men, the movie, has action always happening right in front of you. And if it's not happening in front of you, the camera swerves around to show you where you're supposed to be looking. If you're in VR in a totally 360-degree environment, how are you going to tell people where to look? So that's really some of the interesting stuff to me.
Well,
yeah.
You're a brave soul. You are a brave soul.
And a dead one at that, apparently.
Well, also, I would love to know, Kenny, what have you been playing recently?
Well, mine is actually related to E3 as well. I was one of the unlucky few, it seems, that missed out on the Destiny Alpha, but I decided to go ahead and download Battlefield Hardline for the PS4, and I thought that was a really cool deal where basically they were talking about something at E3 and they're like, oh yeah, you can go do it right now, yay, or even like 24 hours from now would be cool. But so often the line item for this E3 was, and you can do it in a year or two. But so
2015 was the common refrain. You're absolutely right.
Honestly, while I was doing tweets for the days, I kept on typing in E3 2015 because I'm like, okay, that's what I kept hearing. But anyway, so I downloaded Hardline, and I got Battlefield 4 when I first got my PS4, and I enjoyed it. It had its issues, of course, but I downloaded Hardline. Thought it was a pretty interesting concept. I'm a big fan of Visceral's past work, and I got into a match, and I started running around, and I just noticed that. So for those of you who don't know, Hardline is basically a reimagining of the Battlefield franchise to feature, for lack of a better term, cops and robbers gameplay. So you're either the cops thwarting the bad guys or the bad guys that are trying to get away with stuff that they've robbed. Now, of course, that's dumbed down, but Battlefield, cops and robbers. Presentation is pretty cool, but when I got into the game, I realized that it feels like Battlefield. Cool, no big deal. And then I started noticing that I didn't feel like it ran as well. I had issues with a little bit of frame rate actually on my experience. I also noticed that the game didn't look as sharp. Like for example, if you see your hand holding the barrel of a rifle, the hand was very like there was a blue sleeve and a black glove, and there was just very little texture, very little detail. And after playing Battlefield 4 on the PS4 and seeing it just ooze texture detail, at least for a console game, and when it came out, I felt like it just didn't have the sharpness that Battlefield 4 did, and I really just didn't enjoy it.
Now let's be clear. This is a beta of the game. It's not a finished product. And,
I understand that, but that's that's the danger of releasing an unfinished product, isn't it? Though.
Is that you're going to judge it like a finished project?
Is that I'm gonna be very skeptical of it.
Sure.
I think that I am not a PC gamer, so I haven't done a whole lot with like the Greenlight games or even demos are few and far between nowadays for games that I'm interested in playing, and especially demos that come out prior to release. Like maybe my memory is mistaking, but I thought that happened once upon a time. So when I played this game, I'm like, I don't really. I guess I know where they're going with it. I just don't. I'm not interested. There's so many other things on the horizon. I played it. I moved on. And so I get it. It's a beta. I just didn't really feel like the experience was there. Although I do admire them for what they did, where they showed a game and then you were able to get hands-on with it, and you didn't have to be on the E3 show for it. Yeah. So I will give them that. On a related note, I did actually immediately start playing Battlefield 4 after that, and everything seems to be fixed at least there. So we're good to go.
Well, I hope that everything gets worked out, because I was definitely intrigued by the concept of where they're trying to take that. And I mean, as far as franchises like Call of Duty and Battlefield go, you don't often see them change up the formula very often. You oftentimes just see the same kind of product released with new maps, new weapons, better, crisper graphics, but you oftentimes don't see them kind of change up, what the objective is that you're trying to do in a multiplayer match. So I really hope that they get it worked out, but for the time being, I'll have to take your word for it, Kenny.
Well, I obviously hope they get it worked out as well. Yeah. I enjoy the Battlefield series much more than I do the Call of Duty series, and so I'm waiting for it to find its place, apparently, as it were. So maybe this will be it. And like I said, I like Visceral, so I wish them all the best. I had a rough experience with it. I understand it's a beta. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you. And now, Andrew, you had some hands-on time with a game that I'm very excited about, and a lot of people are very excited about. What is that?
Yeah, speaking of unreleased games that the public was testing, I got to play Smash Brothers for the 3DS and the Wii U at my local Best Buy. I say local. I drove 40 minutes to do it, but that counts as local, right? So
Some people.
yeah, for some people, it's all relative. And I think it's really funny that Kenny and I both got to play unreleased games that were at E3. But I think he hit a little bit on the point of when you play these games, even though you understand intellectually that they are not a finished product and there is time to make improvements, you sometimes feel like in your heart or in your gut that that it should be perfect because it's this thing that you've been excited to play. And I can tell you, I had a lot of fun with Smash Brothers. I got to play as Mega Man on the 3DS and got to do a 2-minute match there. I won that match, so go me against my computer opponents. I got to hit the Smash Ball and got to use Mega Man Super Smash. He summoned in a bunch of fellow Mega Man characters and just shot the heck out of everybody, and that's the reason why I won. And then on the Wii U, I played against human opponents, 2 middle school boys and my wife, and it was also a 2-minute match. I played as Greninja, the Pokemon, and that match I placed second. Again, I got this, or actually, I didn't get the Smash Ball. I got the hammer, and so I guess I kind of cheated. But I think that's usually banned in tournament play. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It ran very smoothly. It was faster paced than Brawl, but slower paced than Melee. There was no tripping or anything like that. Most of the matches, I was just trying to figure out their movesets. 2-minute matches are really quick time, so just trying to figure out how to play completely new characters in that little time and then try to do something with them was a little bit of a challenge. When I started the Wii U match, the very first thing I did was accidentally run over the side and die because I was looking at the wrong character. So I humiliated myself immediately, and yeah, but it was a lot of fun. It was gorgeous, very smooth. The 3DS one looked a lot better than I was worried that it would. So yeah.
So you embarrassed yourself in front of 2 junior high boys and your wife.
Well, yeah. That's not including the 300 plus people who were waiting in line to play Smash Brothers.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be very tough for me to be. Because you have everybody watching you. You want to take it easy on the junior high kids, but at the same time, you want to kind of, teach them a lesson that hey, you need to respect your video game elders. So,
well, maybe I'll just say that I needed to throw them a bone as a head start or something.
There you go. Well, I think you're nicer than maybe Kenny would have been. I think he would have just stomped all over those kids.
Well, I probably also would have hated my experience because I hate Nintendo as well.
Oh, I forget that. I keep forgetting that. Well. Thanks for reminding us, Kenny, as you always do, about your red-hot burning hatred for Nintendo.
Ooh, red hot.
We know you haven't. We know. Oh yeah, red hot. And so I have to talk about. Kenny talked about that he had played the beta for Battlefield Hardline. I got to try out the alpha for Destiny. And I have to say, I hear a lot of people who are, very excited about Destiny, and I know very little about it in comparison to what I know. Jeremy, who writes for Geeks with Wives, he's like way into Destiny, and so he's like my resource for everything Destiny, and so I want to know, what people are excited about, and I have to say it. I was very surprised and impressed, first of all, with how good it ran and how well everything worked. Of course, they don't open up the whole game to you, but just a small portion of it. You have like one mission, a second mission that's really just open world exploration, and you just kind of get to explore, some of Earth that's like been decimated, and that was pretty cool because there's a lot of hidden like caves and things, and sometimes I would like go into a portion of it and there would be like enemies that were leveled up way more than what I was. I would just like be level 6 and they would be like level 30 and they would just decimate me. So I really enjoyed it, and then there's some really cool features where you can upgrade your armor, which that's not like anything special nowadays, but I think that they do a really good job of enticing you to keep playing, and you can upgrade your ship. You have like a spaceship that you can fly around in. You have something like a speeder bike from Star Wars that you can kind of zoom around the barren wasteland of Earth, and I really liked it. I had a lot of fun, and I have to say that I will probably be getting Destiny now just based off of playing that. So I'm really excited about that. And did anybody else get to? I know Kenny didn't get to, but has anyone else had any hands-on time with Destiny? No. All right.
No.
Well, while I didn't have hands-on time with Destiny, I did actually meet up with Maximus Prime from Twitter today for lunch in good old Jefferson City, Missouri. So, hey, man, Geeks with Wives, connecting people since 2014. And he had nothing but praise to lay upon Destiny. I know that he was thoroughly impressed with it, and honestly, from just our conversation, I really hope that they're going to open this up to the greater public so I can get in. And if not, I too may have to invest in a Bungie title on my PlayStation 4.
Yeah, I mean, I think what is so cool about it is that it's able to stand out amongst the crowd of a lot of first-person shooters that will be coming out this fall, because I mean, there are some exciting games. You're going to have Evolve. I know they're re-releasing the Halo, the Master Chief Collection, I believe, and so you're going to have a lot of competition. Call of Duty, Battlefield Hardline, unless it gets pushed back to 2015, like Kenny hopes. I think we're going to have a big competition here, and I think it's really impressive that Destiny seems to have kind of separated itself as far as being very different from everything else that's going to be out there as far as first-person shooters are concerned.
I have a question for you guys as someone who played the Battlefield Beta and the Destiny Alpha. If only people had played both, but I think it's interesting the terminology they use, that Destiny is alpha and the Battlefield was beta. Do you guys make anything out of that? Am I just trying to assign some kind of meaning there that perhaps shouldn't? What do you guys think?
I think that the alpha was more to kind of rev up the hype with the PlayStation 4 fan base, because that was the only console that it was available for. So I think that they're really trying to entice people and say, hey, this is just the beginning of all of the exclusives that are going to be coming to PlayStation 4 owners. So I think that was really the push for it. And then, of course, the beta comes out in July for Destiny. And so if you pre-order it, you get like a code to download it. And it's funny because if you have a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3, you get to play that before people that own an Xbox One or Xbox 360. You get to play it like, I don't know, less than a week before them. But, it's like 5 days. So I think they're definitely trying to entice people with all of the exclusives that will be coming to Destiny.
Well,
Well,
and to answer the question about alpha versus all the rest of the terms, it's really some of it. I mean, they could call it pancake. Like it doesn't. It's all they're all on different schedules, and while game development is a pretty set thing, and there's a lot of kind of consistency between companies. You could still, I mean, there are terms like vertical slice that you may have heard, where it's a playable version at a high quality for something like E3. But I mean, really, I think the use of the term alpha is more of a marketing gimmick than it is an actual where are they in the development cycle. Certainly, the question is it pre-release or release? And right now we know it's pre-release, and whatever words they tell us to signify that to people like Kenny, the better off all of these companies are.
Well, I'm just wondering if they were using, if they're trying to use language here. Are they just saying alpha because they're going to have a beta later, so it makes more sense to say alpha and then beta rather than beta and then also beta? Or if it's some kind of a, gives them even more wiggle room to say, well, this is just the alpha. Just wait till you see how much improvements we have for the beta, and then this is just the beta. Wait till you see.
Yeah, I would say it's probably equally parts both. And reality is, I mean, a lot of this is marketing. And to be fair, these companies are not, I mean, they haven't done, this is not that often that this type of thing happens. It's happening more and more, it seems, which is good for gamers who really care about this. But the reality is that these companies are somewhat in uncharted territory. And so, they do need to step lightly because console gamers are not used to having pre-release access to games. And if they screw it up, they're going to get a lot of kind of ire directed in their direction. And last thing I think EA wants is to be the worst company in the world for a third time. So they have to all of these companies have to be careful.
I do think it's a little interesting that we hear negative things about the beta, which theoretically is further along in development cycle than the game that we get an alpha for, which I have heard nothing but
But these are two different companies. To assume that they're on the same development cycle is ludicrous. Like they're all doing it at all at different speeds, and they're all dealing with things differently. And trust me, when I watched the development of Halo 4, which I spent 6 months on and off going through and involved in these conversations and watching them go through it, the way that they got bugs. And the last part, there was this amazing slide where it was literally this bug drop-off slide and how long it would take them to kill and squash these bugs that they were finding and what rate and all of that. And they were measuring it against other Bungie titles, right, against Halo 3 and ODST and Reach. And they weren't measuring it against Grand Theft Auto, which they probably don't have the data on anyway. But the point is that all of these companies work at different schedules a little bit, and again, to assume that they're in the same point in the development process, they have different groups of people working on the game. I mean, if you were to take a full version or even a grouped up version of Assassin's Creed today, I'm willing to bet you that it looks completely different, or meaningfully different at least, from Battlefield Hardline in terms of quality, in terms of how many bugs there are, and all sorts of stuff, because the team building Assassin's Creed is far bigger. There's a lot more features they're packing in. So as a result, it's going to be harder to look at right now than probably Battlefield. Now, I'm just assuming, but I think it's a safe assumption, right? So, you want to be careful about it. I mean, same thing. Battlefield Hardline is a game. It's multiplayer, but Destiny is a $500 million game that, over 10 years that is meant to be like an MMORPG. They're completely different monsters. And so you really want to think about, just because they're using the same words or slightly different words does not mean anything about anything, I think. And reading into it too much is not going to get you very far because none of us know the real answer to a lot of this.
Speaking of assumptions, I think we can all
not to beat
assume...
up on you too much.
No, please do.
We can all assume that if Battlefield Hardline had been titled Battlefield Hardline Pancakes, it would have been better.
It would have been. I mean, strawberry pie, right? I mean, you could have so much fun with it.
Well, the fun thing, Ian, is that since neither of the games are technically out yet, all we get to do is make up drama about them. So,
well, we got to fill airtime, right? We got 22 more minutes.
Exactly. So
I heard that Halo 5 was gonna suck.
Oh,
just wait until you play the alpha, unless they call
That's
it
right.
beta.
That's
those pancakes are gonna suck.
As a matter of fact, I heard the only way it could be worse is if they put it on the Wii U.
There you go.
Oh.
I was just waiting for Kenny to go there.
Nintendo hate.
Okay, well, Kenny, there were some exciting news, Wii U related news that happened at E3. I would love to hear, what your thoughts were on what Nintendo did at E3, and really for the rest of the guys, not just Kenny, of course. What stood out at E3 for you? And looking back a week after everything, or not even a full week after, is there anything that you really took away from E3? And is there anything that maybe you feel like didn't get covered enough? So let's talk about E3 a little bit more.
Well, I will just name two titles that have me very interested. Three titles that have me very interested after Nintendo's showings throughout the week. The first is no big surprise, and that would be Zelda in its pure capacity on Wii U. I'm very much looking forward to that. It doesn't matter how long the trailer lasted. It doesn't matter whether that was in-game or cinematics or pancakes. I'm excited. The unfortunate thing for me with that game is that I can't believe that we're going to see it on the shelves anytime before holiday 2015, probably later than that. So that hurts. The second game I'm very excited to see is Star Fox for the Wii U, and that was only teased. I am again skeptical of when we'll be able to see that on the shelves, which again makes me a little disappointed. But hey, no big deal. Those things are coming. Finally, thank you. Now, something that totally caught me off guard, in a way that only Nintendo can. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. I am intrigued, actually, is a good way to put it.
Did you play Mario World?
Huh?
Did you play Mario World?
I did not.
Okay, so there were levels in Mario World that are exactly like this, which is why they built it.
Correct. Correct. Of course, it's correct. That's what I heard, rather. So no, I do not own a Wii U, Ian, because I detest Nintendo, right?
You could have gone to a Best Buy.
Because was that? Oh no. Oh, thank you. I worked there.
Oh, you're above that. Andrew and Jeff, they can go, but you.
I'm repressing retail memories. But it wouldn't be surprising to me if they didn't even have it at my Best Buy, anyways. So I don't have a Wii U, but that being said, I detest Nintendo so much that actually I've been playing Sticker Star quite often lately.
I'll show you Nintendo.
Yeah.
By playing
Curse
your
you,
games.
Nintendo. I'll play your games. So, I'm kind of in the mood for that Mario World feeling, the humor, and so Captain Toad Treasure Tracker totally threw me for a loop because I didn't feel like I'd even be excited in something like that, but yet I am. And so again, I've got my eye on a Wii U. It'll probably be my next console purchase. I just have to do some convincing of other members of my household. So there, Internet, take that.
So, Ian, you had, you were actually at E3. Is there anything? I know you had a lot of, takeaways from, playing with Oculus, but is there anything else that you really thought stood out to you while you were there?
So, certainly what Nintendo is trying to do was interesting. I feel like Microsoft and PlayStation played very much to what you expected them to do, which was PlayStation really hitting hard on, here are the great games we've got, here's why our leadership position is good, here's what we're going to continue to do to keep that leadership position, including PlayStation TV and PlayStation Now. So those all were relatively unsurprising, but still very, very positive for the company, right? And then Microsoft focusing on games, games, games. I mean, literally, Phil Spencer said that, and then he went ahead and did that, and that was the entire hour and a half presentation. So, two companies that followed exactly what they had said that they were going to do. What was interesting about Nintendo is that it felt like, and I mentioned this in passing to a couple of people, that Nintendo has gotten a little more of its kind of playfulness back. I feel like in their presentations, especially over the video, that you had Iwata-san standing in front of a wall and talking, and then saying, here's a game, and here's the trailer for the game, and then here's another game, and here's some gameplay. And it worked. I mean, the people who like Nintendo really enjoyed that stuff, but as I think a lot of people who are not that acclimated to Nintendo or even know who he is, they would have been a little turned off. And this time around, they used Robot Chicken, right? They had these figurines that they commissioned, and when I met with Reggie Fils-Aimé, he actually had his little figurine on the table, which was hilarious. And they had the fight scene between Iwata and Reggie, which was also rather funny. And it just felt like that Nintendo understood, okay, let's go back to what we're good at, right? You remember, if you go back to 2012, the Wii U was all about, we can play hardcore games too, right? And they had Zombie U. They actually shot a zombie in the head on stage. Like, they did a lot of stuff that you would not have expected Nintendo to do at other points in its corporate history. And so now you've got Nintendo returning back to that playfulness that they're known for, and really standing on those types of games, and the messaging too. And it was rather refreshing. It was different from what I expected, and even Amiibo was a very kind of, the way that they introduced it and the way that they played with it seemed very interesting, and I think it said a lot about just kind of how that company's trying to turn things around. The thing that, say what you will about Sony and Microsoft, they're pretty comfortable right now compared to Nintendo, and it's really interesting what Nintendo's trying to do to catch up. There's certainly interesting stuff coming out of Sony and Microsoft too, but Nintendo had that much of an impact, I think, because they are the underdogs this time around.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I think it's interesting to hear what you said, Ian, as kind of someone who was actually there, in regards to the playfulness of Nintendo and kind of Microsoft and Sony sitting comfy there and at the top or together ahead of Nintendo. One of the things that I've noticed in retrospect is that Microsoft and Sony, with their stage presentations, they want to show you that they're cool and relaxed and that kind of stuff. So what they're doing, like, they have their shirt collar unbuttoned. They're not wearing a tie. And then Nintendo
I think Sean was wearing a tie, though. The place
you
also had a pocket square, if I remember correctly.
If you don't follow those companies, you don't know who these people are. It's just some guy wearing a suit coat, open collar and talking to you. But then Nintendo had two guys in suits fist fighting each other. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know who they are, you can still get that air of, well, I don't know who Reggie and Iwata are, but I do recognize the fact that they're at least trying to be fun in a way that standing out a little bit more than the way the other guys are trying to be fun. So I can see what you're saying there, and I do think it's interesting how everybody's trying to say, oh, we're fun, but going about it in different ways.
Well, and again, what I want to get across is that it was different from what was expected. I walked into, I approached Nintendo with the expectation that I was going to see another video that was very similar to the one last year, which, again, I mean, people love the presentations. The Mario Cat thing from Mario World was hugely popular. I mean, tapping into the cat craze on the internet, like, people loved it. I remember the coverage was rather enthusiastic last year around that. But the thing is, while I'm watching this video, does it really entice me, or do the games themselves, are they what entices me? And what I think is important is that the messaging of Nintendo has always been that they are usually very good at marketing themselves as a company and the games. And in the last couple of years, maybe they haven't been as successful. And this time around, they really did a much better job with that.
Well,
and again,
even,
Microsoft and PlayStation,
yeah.
they've got it down. They know how to do that. But Nintendo somewhat struggled.
I think even with the production values of the Nintendo Directs versus the E3 digital event that Nintendo did, I mean, they have Iwata standing in an all-white room, and he says a few things in a cutesy voice, and then he says, like, he bows, holds his hands out, and then it cuts to a video of gameplay. But in this, they actually had, a little bit more dynamism, a little bit more dynamic. There's colors. It wasn't just a white background. They had shots of people in aquariums, and like they were out on location doing things. They had shots of people in a yarn factory. I don't know what to call it. A place where they made yarn, and I mean, it just added a little bit more just to be on location in places rather than just this is a Japanese guy standing in an all white room. This is Reggie standing in an all white room. It just seemed to make it a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm getting across my point, but whatever.
I think it's called a yarnery.
A yarnery. Okay, sorry.
I don't know. I just made that up.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Has FisaMech been announced for Smash Brothers yet?
No, but I'm still waiting for that amiibo so I can unlock the character.
I think FisaMech needs to be in Smash Brothers. That would be the ultimate Nintendo. Just bomb, just boom.
Has he visited the FisaMech Me visited my 3DS when I took it out and about with me? Has he done that with anybody else's?
He hasn't done that for me, so okay. Maybe Reggie just doesn't like me. I don't know.
it was just weird because the street pass plaza. He just came walking up and he's like, "Hey, I'm FisaMech." I was like, okay. I don't know. I just, I think it would be funny for people that have no idea, who he was before, E3 happened.
So some kid playing Pokemon and then like, who's this guy who just showed up on my DS? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had something that I was very intrigued about, and that, of course, is PlayStation TV. I thought that was something that was I was hoping that we would eventually get that. Of course, in Japan, it's the Vita TV, but I think it's very exciting that Sony is going to be using just kind of the PlayStation 4 as like the center of everything else that its PlayStation products revolve around, and I'm really intrigued by the PlayStation TV. Has anybody else kind of been excited about that?
Okay, so just so everyone knows that I don't just hate on Nintendo, I'm a little apprehensive about the Vita TV, and here's why. So I don't think I'm ever going to play a Vita game on my TV. So there's that. Now, I might use it as a streaming device for Netflix or something for an alternate room, and that's cool, I suppose. But in terms of playing my PlayStation 4 like in my bedroom or some such, it would really have to work a lot better than it does between the PlayStation Vita and my PlayStation 4 right now. I mean, in my house, I have my PS4 in my basement, and I go upstairs in my kitchen directly over my entertainment center, and I get poor connection. And I've got a decent router, so I don't feel like it's that. I just feel like it's a little wonky right now. And then in terms of using it to stream PlayStation Now, again, how is PlayStation Now going to function? How well is it going to function? If it functions well enough, I guess that opens up a whole new direction for the PlayStation Vita TV. But as of right now, as Sony enthusiasts, a PlayStation enthusiast, I love my Vita, I love my PS4. I'm not that excited for it right now.
Yeah.
So Kenny, let me posit something. You are not the target market. So and I mean that not to be hard on you again, but the Vita TV, actually, I was speaking with Sony, and they said that the target market for this are ages 6 to 12. And what's interesting is that with the part of the reason is that they're going after people who want to play games in a party atmosphere, right? So in their living room together, like Towerfall, is that the game? Yeah. And they also are going after people, some people who are going to stream PlayStation 4 to their other TVs. But they're very realistic about the fact that people like you, Kenny, are not going to be interested very much in this product because you've got a PlayStation 4. Why go after this? The real interest is going to be going after those people who don't have a PlayStation and want kind of an entry level, which this can offer, and the 6 to 12-year-olds who want to have those kind of more simplistic PlayStation games and not have to deal with having to pay $300, $400. So that's the interesting part to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you just kind of have to put it out there and see what people do with it. I mean,
well, that costs a lot of money just to put it out there. It's
well,
easy for you to say, but you don't have to pay for the manufacturing, the shipping, and the agreements. So putting it out there is not the right answer. But definitely, I think it's going to be interesting. They need to have a plan, and it seems like they have a plan, which is good.
Yeah. I think, for me, I'm thinking of how people have accepted it in Japan. And I know that I've talked to several people that have used it's Vita TV in Japan, but they liked it, and they had a good experience with it, with being able to, of course, play Vita games on the TV. But they said that the streaming quality was great on it, and so I'm excited. And I know that it sounds funny, but I told my wife about it, and she doesn't even care about games at all. She's not a gamer, and I'm doing good enough to get her to play Mario Kart for maybe like 10 minutes, and then she's done. And so when she heard about it, she's like, "Oh, wow! So I can, like Kenny mentioned, I can stream Netflix on any TV." And I was like, "Yeah," and she's like, "I want that just for that." So I mean, I think it's just interesting how some people will, kind of grab onto it, like you said, maybe some like younger people, but maybe some housewives out there will maybe put the PS4 to use, more
but
than that.
I would question how many people already have that capability through a Roku or through an Apple TV if they were after a $99 device, like, or the Fire TV. Like, there's so many streamers out there already, and that's part of the question, right? Is what is Sony going to offer to those people who don't care about the games that's going to make it compelling? I think the answer is not much. I think that, like I said, when they told me their market was that 6 to 12-year-old demographic, and by the way, that's why you saw the bundle had the Lego movie in it, right? They realized that, hey, there's only a certain number of people who this is going to get across to, and they're being realistic about it, which is smart.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And is there anything else that anybody took away from E3 that we haven't talked about? All right. Okay.
Well, we've got some questions from Twitter
Yeah.
that we'd like to go ahead, and I think what we'll do is I have one question to ask, and that is, Ian, do you have any experience with PC games?
Yeah, of course. I played plenty of PC games. In fact, I played them. The most recent PC game I played was I played South Park all the way through using the PC version. So there you go. But I play a number of PC games, actually.
Great. Then your lightning question has been selected, and we will move on to some Twitter lightning questions. So the first question goes to Andrew. These are going to be matched up based on personalities on the show. So, Andrew, just very quickly, I'd like you to answer Peter Morrow's question. That's at Edrickson with a C _Taro. And he asks, what company / franchise did you have high hopes for that you just thought didn't deliver?
Well, that's a good question. I really kind of thought that this might be the year for The Last Guardian, and I don't know why. I just had gut instinct, and that didn't come through.
Well, didn't you read IGN's article that said it was canceled?
and then uncanceled.
I
Stab.
didn't see the article that it was canceled. I saw the article that said, "Never mind, we're sorry we posted the article that it was canceled." And I said, "Oh, okay." But I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't see that. And I was also just expecting to see more, I guess, from Square. I was really excited about the new Tomb Raider, still am. But I was hoping to see something Bravely Second, the sequel to Bravely Default, new Kingdom Hearts, or the Final Fantasy 15 or whatever it's been renamed now. I don't know. I was hoping for a little bit more JRPG action kind of stuff from them, which I didn't really see. So those are the two things that immediately spring to mind.
Very good. Well, I'm sure that we all had our high hopes and slight disappointments. I know for me, Mass Effect 4, I really wanted to see more of that, and I got some concept art. So I guess I'll have to wait for the next big show.
More than you would have gotten under with EA last year when they weren't in this type of mood of sharing.
That's true. Well, they're moody. See if you can fix that, Ian. So, Ian, speaking of Ian, we've got your lightning round question right here from Punch Clops. That is at Punch Clops on Twitter. And he says, as a long-term, I'm assuming he means long time, as a long-time PC gamer, is there any reason for me to buy a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One?
I mean, the argument is always twofold. One is you don't have to keep upgrading your graphics chips and your memory all the time. Darn it. So that's one option. The other one is the exclusive games. You're not going to ever play, well, never say never, but highly unlikely you'll ever play Halo on your PC, and highly unlikely you will ever play The Order on your PC. So, if you care about those types of games, that's why you're going to buy it. If you want to save a few bucks and get a relatively, comparable experience, maybe not as high quality, but right there, then you're going to get a console. And that's really the reason that it's always been. I don't think there's ever been an argument for consoles that has ever strayed from those 2 points. It's interesting. If you think back before Halo, shooters were not very popular on consoles at all, and they were really the domain of PCs. And Halo really turned that around. But otherwise, it's always been, hey, these consoles are just PCs anyway. And so what you have behind them is that you have set hardware, which means that the game makers can optimize their games to look the best on them. And then you have the exclusives, which come through these marketing arms and the companies that these companies buy to make their games. And that's stuff that might be compelling. I mean, we have spent a lot of time, rather, on this show talking about The Last of Us. You will never play that as a PC game. So those are the types of things you have to think about when you're debating that. If you don't care, great, have fun. Go play Battlefield, go play Call of Duty, and play Assassin's Creed on the PC. You'll be a happy man. But if you want more than that, that's when you start thinking about consoles.
So, Ian, did you see anything at the show this time that you feel is an exclusive that someone should make this leap into and get a console for? Did you see anything like that?
I think that Nintendo's becoming more interesting, as we pointed out throughout this entire show. That is a lot of non-PC stuff going on. So that's interesting. I think that the jury is still out on the PlayStation and Xbox exclusives, and the reason I say that, and I'm talking about the exclusives that are not going to ever be on PCs, is that the launch titles for both, I think, universally the reviews were kind of like not the best, right? And so the question is, odds are that the quality bar is going to jump up real high with this next generation of games coming out in the fall. And if that's the case, great. If not, then okay, maybe we need to wait until the next iteration after that. Certainly, stuff like Grand Theft Auto 5 now coming out on the PC, that's one less reason to go and get yourself, have to go and get a console. But there's still, I don't know. I think that the exclusives look interesting. They look promising, but you have to always be careful with E3 because it's a lot of these vertical slices that they do, right? The playable modes on the games are really sometimes, the game is very undone outside of that, and you have to question how is it going to look, how's it going to play, and they're supposed to give you an idea, but this is all marketing. You don't know what it's going to be like when you get it.
Every company is just going to show what they have in the best possible light.
Exactly, and they're going to show the best of it, and you really need to keep that in mind. And so, a lot of people are really fired up. I mean, there's no question. There's a lot of hype around this stuff. So if they deliver, great. Then you've got a lot of good arguments to consider getting a console. But I also don't see this as as a binary thing. There are plenty of people who own PCs and own consoles and play on both all the time, and they're very happy people. It's about how much money you have to spend too, right?
Well, it's a very interesting answer. I guess you read the question differently than I did. I read it as a long-time politically correct gamer. Is there any reason for me to buy a PS4 or Xbox One? But I guess your answer. That would apply to a certain segment of the listening audience. So that was a bad joke. And speaking of bad jokes, our final question is for Jeff Gordon, and that comes from at Chad M. Osuna. Chad is actually a resident geek, and he covers movies and TV and entertainment in general. Also crosses over into cosplay. And he says, I've got a question. Can Jeff go 4 wide through turn 3 at Talladega?
What is Talladega? Is that the thing where Ricky Bobby goes to?
That is precisely what Talladega is, Jeff.
Yeah. In case anybody doesn't know, yes, I do share the name of a somewhat famous race car driver. It's my burden to bear. It's my ring that I have to take to Mordor, and maybe one day we'll cast it into the fires. I don't know. But to answer the question, no, I can't.
I was totally waiting for you to pull an Office Space there and tell us that he's the one who sucks, so he needs to change his name.
What's that guy's name? Michael Bolton?
Mike Bolton.
Oh man. Well, yes. Well, thank you, Chad, for asking those very insightful questions. We definitely appreciate it. And we appreciate really everybody who tweets us questions, and continue to do that, because we want to make sure that you are represented on the podcast, that you are a part of this podcast, and so we thank you for that. Now, we get to the point at the end of every podcast where we have a final thought, and I thought, Ian, since you brought the heat tonight, you were on point. I think that you have to go first and give us your final thought.
Sure. So I'm not going to talk about E3 because I've spent enough time talking about it. I am going to instead bring up Mario Kart. So what really fascinated me about Mario Kart is how much different the market seems to have reacted to it from Mario 3D World. So Mario 3D World comes out in last fall, gets huge reviews, really great. I think it ended up above 90, if I remember correctly, on Metacritic. And overall, it seemed like it was going to be a real system seller. And then Nintendo has to put out a statement at the beginning of the year saying, our estimates were over, and we're actually not going to meet our estimates. And things are bad. And so bad that they had to hold a press conference around it. And so this time around, it looks like the hardware is starting to sell. Mario Kart seems to have done spectacularly well. It was number 2 in the MPD data that came out yesterday, which is really uncommon. I don't think there has been a system exclusive that has gotten into the top 5 in the next gen yet. So that's a big deal. And the question is this going to start moving the needle? Now, certainly it's a fun game. I've had a lot of fun playing it. But the real question is, will it start to move the needle for Nintendo? And if so, what other games is it going to take to keep this needle moving? The 3DS really started to take off after they got compelling games, and 3D World was supposed to be that, but it didn't take off as much. Now, of course, it was going after the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One launches, so we'll give them a little credit there. But if this is a good sign for them, this could be the beginning of an upswing. We'll see, and it's very promising. But I remember a lot of people on Twitter were asking me about the Wii U, and the the one thing I have to point out to everyone is one bullet point does not a trend make, and we have to see where this goes.
Well, I have to say I really did enjoy Mario Kart, and when I had a Mario Kart party. I think the last time that you were on the show, we talked about that I was going to have a Mario Kart party, and it was just funny because after everybody played it, they were like, "Man, like, what is this the the normal question that I always get, which is this like the normal Wii or is this like an add-on to the Wii?" I'm just like, oh my gosh, Nintendo, like, but I feel like I hear so much positive stuff about it that when I hear people say, man, I need to get a Wii U now so I can play this, and so yeah, I definitely think that it's impressive, but I mean, this isn't going to carry them for the long haul, but I mean, it is impressive that one title can kind of lift Nintendo just a little bit. But thank you, Ian. Thank you. We appreciate your wisdom and
as much as it is.
Yes, just to sit at your feet and hear your wise words. Andrew, what is your final thought today?
Well, we kind of touched on it a little bit on stuff that I didn't necessarily see at E3. There's quite a few different games that I was kind of hoping to see more of, learn more of. Those that I named were kind of the big ones. I wanted to get an idea for the rest of you guys. Was there any one game that really stood out as something you wanted to see that you guys didn't get to see?
Majora's Mask for the 3DS.
Well, that was a pretty decisive answer, Kenny.
Done.
I really want. I mean, I know that they said that Final Fantasy 15 wasn't going to be shown, but I was just kind of hoping that maybe like they were going to fake us out and show us some more footage about footage of that game, because I really am excited about that. I was it was a false hope, but it was, but I wanted to see that because I think that this is the game that's going to get me back into Final Fantasy, because I've kind of taken a break. But Ian, is there anything that you wanted to see that you didn't get to see?
I wanted to see more fully fleshed out VR games. I know I sound like a broken record on this VR stuff lately, but I really wanted to. This is where a lot of the attention in the market is. I also wanted to see Steam stuff. Let's not forget the Steam machine was supposed to be a big conversation piece at E3, and it kind of deflated very quickly once they announced the delay. So that you can definitely put down as one of the things I'd like to have heard more about and did not. But what was really interesting to me was I'm looking for that moment where I can see a game that's fully fleshed out for VR and say, here we go. This is what it's going to look like. Right now, what I have are about 15-minute experiences, which are fun, but they are not 60-hour games. And so the question is, what will those look like? What will it be like? Can I even play a game for 60 hours or in 5-hour spurts and not end up having to keep a bucket next to me? Those are the questions that I'm curious about that haven't been fully answered yet. They're getting closer inch by inch every time, but I'm really curious.
Well, I will definitely be keeping a close eye on everything that you post on Twitter so that I can get the latest on all of the VR news.
And now that I'm at CNET, it's all free to read too, so you can always go over there and read my stuff as well.
I like that. It's like the mobile gaming of tech news. Right?
I don't know how to take that, but okay.
Free to play, free to read.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Just as long as you don't charge microtransactions for getting the big words into your article or something like that.
That's right. Indubitably costs you 99 cents.
So, Mr. Newville, do you have a final thought for us this evening?
I do. So on Twitter, we've been casting the net, as it were. We at Geeks with Wives are a community of geeks. Not all of us are are married. Not all of us have wives. Not all of us have kids. Not all of us are men. But we do have one common interest, and that is geekdom. And so we've been casting our net lately and asking, is there anybody who would be interested in having their content displayed on the site, whether that's in the form of a written work or perhaps a YouTube video, or even join us on the podcast. We're more than welcome to have you on the site within the brand, and we'd love to hear from you. Had a couple people today ask me, what does that entail? Well, it basically entails what you want it to entail. That's the beauty of Geeks with Wives. We're not going to pay you anything, just a lot of love and maybe some unique opportunities, but at the same time, you get out of it what you put into it. So if you want to write a weekly column, you're more than welcome to. If you want to write an article a month, that's fine too. And the interesting thing about it is, with the exception of Ian, myself, Jeff, and Andrew, we all joined the Geeks with Wives team by listening to the podcast and then eventually contributing an article that cascaded into Joe demanding things of us and cracking whips over our backs. And so Ian has the luxury
in a fun and supportive way.
lashings tonight, so he's going to make it sound good. Ian has the benefit of actually doing this for a living, and so therefore, there is that no touchy Joe zone, and so he can hide behind that. That's great, but no, in all honesty, it's a great group of people. Like I said, I ended up going to lunch in my hometown with a guy who I met through Geeks with Wives, so it's really a community, and so I would just invite you, if you have a voice, if you have a perceived talent for writing, or even if you have a pulse, you're more than welcome to come and join the team at Geeks with Wives and talk about all things geek with us. So.
Yeah. I mean, and if you don't have a pulse and you are still able to contribute, I mean, I think that's pretty incredible. I think that we would like to have something like that on the website too.
Jeff has a point. If you don't have a pulse and you are able to respond to this in any way, shape, or form, please don't hesitate to contact us immediately.
We would especially love to hear your perspective on gaming today and how it discriminates against those who do not have pulses.
I don't know. Murdered Soul Suspect? That just came out. Maybe like Ghost Games.
Right, finally, giving voice to the voiceless, right?
Well, that actually segues quite nicely into my final thought, which is right now my wife is out of town, and so I'm home alone, and I've got this thing. I'm not a supernatural person or a superstitious person, I guess is the term you should use, but I feel like whenever I am when I am alone in a house, it automatically becomes creepy to me. And so I just, I'll hear, noises. I think I just heard something right now. So, anyways, I feel like, I don't know, I'm extra hypersensitive right now to, just weird things that are going on at the house. So
you need the Luigi Mansion backpack is what you need.
See, I was actually going to suggest... I was actually going to suggest that Jeff sit down and relax by playing a nice game of Outlast or something like that.
Or Alien Isolation. Let's
right.
go all the way.
Yeah.
So my only question is, and maybe this is something you can ponder after the show, Jeff. Earlier we were trying to figure out where the scratching was coming from.
Oh my gosh. You're right. No, don't do this to me.
The call's coming from inside the house.
All right, that's all the final thoughts, everyone.
Oh man. Well, so
sleep well, Jeff.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you what. I will post a tweet in the morning if I made it, and if I didn't, then and you'll have to find a new host for the podcast. But
Jeff, just remember, if you wake up in the morning and you don't have a pulse, contact us immediately.
That's right.
We have a writing opportunity for you.
Man, this can actually have a nice little payoff to it. But
we can find the silver lining here.
Okay, well, maybe I'm not quite as scared, but once I hear, I'm not going to play the PS4 tonight because I know that when I do, there's a little picture of Outlast that's on, the main screen. So I don't want to see that. I'm just going to try to keep all of that out of my mind, and hopefully I'll make it through the night. But we want to thank you for listening to the show. If you're listening, if you've been listening tonight, or if you download the podcast, we definitely appreciate it. We want to make sure that you can interact with us. And so, guys, starting with Andrew, could you please share your Twitter handle? So, Andrew.
At ACBarton08.
I like it. Ian.
At Ian Sherr, which is basically what I am everywhere. So type in Ian Sherr, you'll find me.
And Kenny?
And I am at Ken Newville. And of course, you can also reach Geeks with Wives at Geeks with Wives.
That's right. We like it when you interact with the Geeks with Wives handle. And we'll make sure to retweet it, and hopefully you can interact with even more people. And my handle is at GentleJeffrey. And I definitely want to thank you once again for listening to the podcast. And hopefully we will see you next week. And until then, until episode 143, have a great week. And we will see you next Tuesday. Bye, everybody.